I'm Fergus Henderson, sort of chef, head chef, I think of St John Bread and Wine, St John Hotel in Chinatown. Don't like to think of the word executive chef, so this is all-seeing chef, hopefully. That's my role.
And restaurateur.
Yeah, well, restaurateur, yes.
Hotelier.
Whatever, hotelier, yes.
Yes, you're a hotelier
Yes.
Mark Hicks Restaurants. I've got 5 in London and 1 in Dorset. As with these chaps, British food, and we kind of fly the British flag most of the time.
Very beautifully too. Very beautifully too. Jeremy Lee, good morning, and head chef of a restaurant called Quo Vadis in London, in Soho. Newly started, actually, having come from Bermondsey in SE1, where I was ensconced for many, many years.
And I'm Marcus Wareing from Marcus Wareing Berkeley Restaurant and also the Gilbert Scott at St Pancras Station in St Pancras Hotel. Thank you. What's happened over the years is that the British produce has created great British food. People say, what are we recognised for? We're recognised for a lot, and I didn't realise how much of our own sort of culture when you look back in history. And when I opened the Gilbert Scott, we looked back into the early turn of the century. Last century, and it was amazing the produce and the food and the cookery books that were written in the early 1900s, and you actually realise that we do have a culture of food. We've just never really sang about it too much, and I think what really slowed us down was obviously the war when food was rationed, and people didn't took a long time to come out of that in the late 40s and the 50s.
I mean, there's great produce. I mean, it's now you leave a stock market or a city, you go to a herd of sheep somewhere. It seems to be very kind of, it's an acceptable thing to do now, is kind of grow lovely animals and make it delicious. But where are our butchers?
Yeah.
Go and hug your butcher. Tell them not to go away. Come back, say.
I think simplicity is down to fantastic ingredients. I think sometimes we forget what great produce we do have in this country. Great game, fishing, all produce from this country I think is fantastic, and there's some magazines and TV shows that have happened in the last 10 years that have really exposed these new small artisan suppliers that we've all been part of. We've all been on television doing our little bit, but it's been interesting for me. My experience was 7 years ago when I was invited to take part of the Great British Menu, and to be really honest with you, I never ever came out of my goldfish bowl, ever. And this show took me to the field and
when
a farm.
When you say the goldfish bowl,
my
you
kitchen.
mean sort of Michelin style?
My kitchen. No, just my kitchen in general. The chef stopped going to see the supplier, and the supplier would come to your back door. And I think it's a two-way street. And I think the appreciation for the farmer has to be, considered. And I think we're all trying very hard to do that, and we all support these fantastic. What's changed over the years is these little small suppliers and can now get their produce to us overnight delivery, great parcel force, great delivery service. So they're now part of the bigger picture. Just to touch on it quickly, children are interested in food. They just don't know how to find it and where to find it in education. I remember when I was going to school with a basket or a tin of ingredients with a cloth over the top. Trust me, it wasn't very nice feeling. But trust me, when I was coming home and I had a tin of ingredients and cakes and things, I was one of the most popular people on the way home. And you could tell that his food is interesting. It's people, when I was at school, felt embarrassed to take part in it because it was seen as a female thing to do. I think it's changed now, but it was interesting. I was the most popular person on the way home. I sold everything.
Food is a permanent thing, and trends and fashion cause terrible ripples and confuse it, but it carries on. Hopefully, I mean, it's British food. It's common sense here. It shouldn't be a movement. It should just be lunch. But hey, British food, yum.
And it's more about British ingredients, I think. Even the best French restaurants in London, for example, are using British ingredients. So it's not so much about it is flying the British flag, but I think also it's about using. We don't need to import chickens from abroad and ducks from abroad now because we've got producers, growing the stuff, and rearing the stuff. So a lot of that stuff. Where I remember when I first came to London, you wouldn't even think about asking the head chef where the tomatoes or the duck or the piece of turbot come from, because most of the time you kind of know it come from it was imported or it came from Runges. But these days you know that you can get decent ducks and decent chickens and stuff here.
Never in my life ever seen so many restaurants open. I can't keep up. I personally, I'd be amazed if anyone could get around them all. There are so many. It's very exciting. I
remember when I was at the Caprice, you used to know 6 months in advance if someone was opening a restaurant. And now
and everyone who was in it. Who was out and where they'd been and what they'd done.
Yeah. And now I just miss openings. You can't physically get out to eat in the new restaurants. It's just impossible.
But I think as far as openings are concerned, it just seems to keep happening. And every weekend you open the newspapers and there's another restaurant and another chef. And you often wonder where they all come from. I think there is a point where it is going to have to slow down a little bit. But, we talk about the economy. And we're all talking about how it's not as good as it was last year, the year before. I think where we are now is reality. And it's actually quite nice, as hard as the talk of the Olympics has been and the Jubilee. It's just fantastic to see the level of positivity. And I think that's what we need to start thinking and doing, is thinking positive. It's such a great time at the moment for Great Britain. And I think it's only going to get better. And I think the more we fly our own flag, the better we'll be. I think it's very exciting, and it's exciting to have the Olympics. It's been an amazing show to watch.
And so the Gastro pub has sort of done an extraordinary thing in reinventing this amazing place where folk gather to meet and be jovial and convivial and enjoy good food. And the strange, horrible reality that they found at the gastropubs, that all restaurateurs find, is the sheer awful cost of running somewhere. So you can eat in a gastropub at the same price as a restaurant. And somehow, miraculously, it has become a part of our structure and daily life that works incredibly well. They seem to have amazingly good sites. Pubs are always very well sited. Always, they're always that to be a very good place to go. And so it works incredibly well, I think. When done, like all things, when done well, with conscience and heart.
Well, pubs were always recognised for bad food, though, weren't they? For many, many years. Now they're not. It's actually quite nice to be able to stop off at a pub and have a nice bite to eat where someone has taken care of it, because pubs do need to up their game as well. It was always seen as, you get a nasty lasagna or something in a pub and no one really cares. Pubs are becoming almost sort of sitting side by side with the restaurants, and it's becoming a restaurant with a pub sort of next to it. And I think people see the value in food in pubs rather than the drink and the pint.